Hi software, welcome to your second lesson in Unit 4. This one is going to be on making things reset position or using conditionals to change things based on an incrementing variable. So, if you have not already watched part 1, please go back and watch part 1. I am starting from essentially the code along from part 1 parsed down a little bit. So if you don't already have this is a good time to open a new editor, pause the video a few times. I'm just going to walk you through what I have in my code. So the first things that I have declared two variables that we're going to be using to start with. One is going to control the X position of my first circle, and in this code, I only have one circle. The other I'm calling circ speed, and I'm using that to control the speed of my circle. I am starting the X position at 25. And I have the speed at 1 just because I want it to be really obvious what we're seeing, so I'm making it move a little bit more slowly. On your end, if you want to move faster, that's not going to affect anything. I just want to make sure you guys are very visually aware of what's happening. And then down in draw, I have drawn my circle using circ x. I have incremented my variable, meaning I am saying circ x is equal to itself plus the speed, so when it's updating. And then this last part, you do not need to put in your code. This is just so that you can see what's happening on my screen. Rather than a console log, I'm just displaying it nice and big so that we don't miss it. I am displaying circ x as text, so you can always see the coordinates. So right now, if I hit play, we see my circle start. We see the coordinates ticking up and up and up and up as my circle moves across the screen. And we should see this annoying thing that we saw a lot in our practice where the circle moves beyond the edge of the canvas, the number keeps going up, the circle is still traveling somewhere, but we can't see it, and maybe we want it to come back. So if that is the case, we are going to just try and get our circle to, when it gets to this right edge, to vanish and reappear on this left edge. So to do that, I'm going to write a conditional statement. And I'm going to write this, like all conditional statements, towards the bottom of our draw function. I'm making sure this conditional is in draw because I want the computer to always be checking to see if this is true or not. And essentially the pseudocode I'm writing is if my circle reaches or passes the edge of the canvas, reset circ x to original position. That's what I'm trying to say. So to do this, I'm going to start my conditional with if. I'm going to have my parentheses where my condition goes. And then the most important thing, which I'm still seeing some of us struggle with, is I need a curly bracket to open and to close this. Okay? So in this if statement, I need to figure out how to say my circle has reached or passed the edge of my canvas. And I know that I'm concerned about the x value and the x position, so I think I could use circ x. And I also know that my canvas is 400 units wide. So if I actually comment this out for a minute, we can see that moment where my circle passes my canvas using these numbers in the middle. Once these numbers become higher than 400, my circle's no longer on the canvas. It just keeps ticking up and up and up. So I think a smart thing that I could say here is if circ x is greater than or equal to 400, then I want circ x to turn into 25. And notice this is not me making like an addition-subtraction statement anymore. I'm not incrementing this variable. This resets circ x to 25. Whatever it was goes right back to 25. So let's play this now and see what happens. I'm playing, it's moving. I see those numbers getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And now it reaches the edge and it restarts and it keeps going. All right. So something else I want to remind you of, if this is something that didn't work for you round 1, I would recommend putting in a console log that just says something about what's happening, like circ 1 reached edge. Because we've talked about this a little bit, but if that console log fires, meaning it shows in your console, that tells you that this conditional worked correctly. You met that condition at some point, and that would mean that something is wrong with your variable. If you never see this conditional fire, if it never tells you that circle 1 reached the edge, then you know that something is wrong with your conditional, something's wrong with that logic. And this can be really hard logic to master. We're not always familiar with using the greater than, equal than operators, or the greater than, less than operators, which we could just have said greater than here. But they're going to be really useful to us. There's also, like, your added challenge today is going to be to try to figure out how to make other things happen in your code. So, for example, maybe I want the size of my circle to start changing once we get to about halfway through my code. So I am going to say that I'm making a variable for the circle size. I'm going to call it circ_sz. And I'm going to make circ_sz equal to 50. That's what it is to start. And over here, I'm going to replace 50 with circ_sz. And right now, nothing changes. It just is holding that number. But circle size, like you guys saw yesterday or 2 days ago, that is something that we can change and adjust. So if I want to say, and let me just add this up here, let me condense some of this code a little bit. If my circle reaches center or, how do I phrase this? I want it to be when I get to the middle or further right. If my circle is at center or further right than center, start growing size. So again, I'm going to start with my if, have my parentheses, I open and close my curly brace, very important that we're including all these pieces or else it's not going to run right. I'm going to say that if circle X is now greater than or equal to 200, because I know 200 is the middle, and if it keeps going to the right, numbers are only getting bigger, so that's my greater than or equal to. Then, instead of changing circ_x, I'm going to start incrementing circ_size, and I'm going to say circ_size equals circ_size plus 1. So now I hit play. Oh, actually, and let me add a console log so we know this is working. Circle right of center, grow. I hit play, my circle starts moving, I'm going to watch it get to 200, and once it gets 200, we see my circle start getting bigger and bigger and bigger and moving, and we see that firing in my console, and then it resets. And notice, this whole time up here, when my circle is huge, it just keeps getting bigger. So if I want to find a remedy to this, maybe here, I could reset my circle size. So here I could say when it gets to that edge, circ size goes back to being 50, and the whole process starts again. So it goes and it goes and it goes, and then it resets. That's one option. I could also choose to maybe put an else statement here, because if circle X is not greater than or equal to 200, it must be less than or equal to 200. And maybe here, I say that circle size is equal to circle size minus 1, and I have it shrink over time. So I see it getting bigger and smaller. It doesn't quite work the way I want it either. Maybe in here, I could write another conditional saying that else if circ_x is less than 200 and circ_size is greater than 50. Actually, greater than 50. I don't want it to get any smaller than 50. Then circle size equals circle size minus 1. So now this is saying the circle has to be on the left side of the screen, that's less than 200, and the size of the circle has to be greater than 50 in order for it to shrink. If the circle size is not greater than 50, it's going to stop shrinking. So now when I hit play, circle stays the same size, very consistent. Then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Then it resets. And then it shrinks and it shrinks and it shrinks and it shrinks, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And we've just made a fun animation. So when you guys are working, a lot of the conditionals that you're going to be writing are going to be kind of up to you to figure out the logic. I would encourage you to check in with me if you have questions. But know that anything is possible with this. You can get lots of different results depending on what you want. And I would strongly recommend, if you're feeling confused, try writing out the pseudocode first of what you are expecting to have happen, and then try and translate into code just like we did in this video. I will talk to you soon, and stay tuned for learning how to make things bounce. Bye!